Welcome back to Ottawa Experts, where we are continuing our conversation on how to use social media to grow your business and attract new customers. And I should mention that this is a live call-in show, so if you have any questions for our experts tonight, please feel free to call the number that you see on your phone. And ladies, during the break we were talking about the importance of understanding your audience and catering to the audience. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that for me?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Yes.
As much as what we were talking about earlier about understanding your business goals and the reason why you're on these platforms, yes. I think the second step is you have to understand your audience. You have to know who you're talking to in order to know what kinds of messages are going to resonate with them. And there's a number of ways that you can assess that. Often people have their own ideas of clients that they've dealt with before and things like that. And then and then also the data that you can gather through the social media tools will also give you insights into who your audience is and what they want and what their needs are. So, assessing your audience is really important.
Yes.
Yeah, and even if you're choosing it, that's going to make a difference in terms of the language that you use when you're talking to them, and it's going to make a difference in terms of which tools, which channels you're going to be talking to them on. Where are you going to be on Facebook? Are you going to be on Instagram? Are you going to be on Pinterest? Depends on who your audience is and what you have to say.
Yeah, because I think there's the pressure that maybe owners feel, businesses feel, that I've got to be on all the platforms, I've got to be communicating on all of them, so I have a presence on all of them. And what you're saying to me is that's not necessarily the case. It really just depends on what you're trying to communicate and who your customer is. And then just finding whatever best works for that. All right, well, let's dive into the actual tools, because I know many people have questions about how to use these specific tools. Let's start with the biggest one, which I think for me anyways is Facebook. So for those who don't know what Facebook is, very briefly, what is Facebook as a social media platform? Fast.
It's interesting because it's so ubiquitous that it's hard to define. Facebook is a social network, and that it was designed as a social network. It was actually created for university students originally, and then was opened up to the public. And it really is it's a force to be reckoned with for sure when it comes to social networking. Allows you to create a profile. You can have various different bits of information, whatever you choose. You don't have to put everything on your Facebook profile. You can choose the types of images you use. You can choose the types of information that you post about yourself, and then other people can connect to you by friending you. And once they've connected with you, then that two-way or multi-way interaction can begin.
Okay, so then how, because I can see very easily, because you say it was built as a social networking, which implies personal, right? Personal thing. But how do you use it as a business platform? Because ultimately, if we're going to talk about using these tools to attract new customers, what is the best way to use Facebook to actually attract new customers or build your brand or, create a presence for yourself online? How do you use Facebook?
Well, Facebook pages are the way to do that. And the Facebook page is different from your personal profile. So your personal profile is all about you and pictures of your kids and your cats and your, and various different things that you want to post about you personally. Yes. Your Facebook page, and pages were actually originally set up for celebrities, because Facebook has a cap of 5,000 friends that you can have on Facebook. Yes. And so a celebrity would go onto Facebook, and they would immediately cap out at their 5,000 friends. Okay. So they created these fan pages, they called them, where it was a profile that you could set up for an individual that wasn't really connected personally. And what happened was it became a really effective tool for business, because now I could actually have a presence on Facebook as Jester Creative in addition to having one as Susan Murphy, and they were separate. Right, so my business was separate, and to me, actually, Facebook, I think, is one of the best ways for small businesses and medium-sized businesses to get their name out there and to start to actually build a presence on social media. Why? Because 1.6 billion people are on Facebook, and everybody's there. And if you are looking for an audience, Facebook is a great way to do that.
So then, can you have a Facebook page for your business without being there yourself online, without you having your personal profile page online? Can you do that?
Go ahead.
I think there is a workaround where you can do that, but I think what's more important is that people need to realize that they can set up an account and then set up a page, and that doesn't mean that anybody can see who you are, right? Like that doesn't mean that suddenly people have access to all your pictures and people have access to all your information, which I think is something I've encountered. People feel that if they have an account and then they set up a page, there's going to be somehow a way for people to see all this information.
Okay.
You can hide that you're an administrator of a page. It doesn't need to be a two-way thing.
Can you make your private page, can you make your personal profile private? Is there any way to, as you said, to address the concerns of those people who don't want to have their personal information visible? Can it be private?
You can set your Facebook profile so that people who are not your friend on Facebook, who are not individually connected to you on Facebook, don't see anything.
Okay.
So they wouldn't even see your profile picture.
Okay.
Necessarily.
That's good to know.
You have control over all those settings. And so just because you have a page, so I have a page for Jester Creative.
Yes.
I have a page for Susan Murphy. Just because somebody likes my Jester Creative page doesn't mean that they can see all my personal stuff if they're not my Facebook friend.
Okay.
So it actually keeps it quite separate for you, and you don't really have to worry too much about that.
Okay, that's
And,
excellent.
and that's something people worry about. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
encounter
sure.
Yes.
over and over again, they worry that that's somehow going to be connected, and it's not.
Okay. Before we delve too much deeper into Facebook, we have a caller. Duncan, you're on the air. Do you have a question for our experts?
Hi. I have a question about for Susan and I have a question. What is your perspective on kids having social media?
Interesting.
Oh,
that's a
that's-
great question.
It's
Thank
a
you
really,
for that,
really
Duncan.
good question, Duncan. I think that kids and parents have to talk to each other about social media. It is something that I think that it's everybody is exposed to social media nowadays. Kids younger and younger are getting access to mobile devices and computers, and I think that parents have to have very serious conversations with kids about how to be safe online. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with having, with somebody who's of the right age, like 13, I think is the limit for Facebook. Once you're 13, you sit down with your parents and you talk to them and you say, I'm going to friend these people. They're going to be part of my network. I'm going to keep it closed and keep it safe.
Yes.
And so I don't have an issue with kids using social media. In fact, I think that kids are so creative these days. They have so many, and they have so few inhibitions about using technology that they can just go out there and create the most amazing stuff. So as long as they're safe about it, and as long as you're talking to your parents about it and making sure that you guys are all on the same page as far as what you're doing on social media.
Excellent. And do you want to add to that, Lara, in terms of?
Yeah, so there are rules. You're not supposed to be on these networks unless you're 13. 13 is the age that these networks has set. But the conversations need to be open. I really believe parents need to have total access to the whatever you've set up so they can log in and see what you're doing. But the earlier that you can learn how to do it well, I think the safer in the long run.
Yeah, very good. I hope we answered your question, Duncan. Thanks so much for calling in. Let's continue our conversation now on Facebook as your business tool, as a means to attract customers or to grow your business. And my question is, if you want to brand yourself as the expert, how do you go about doing that? Is it better to brand yourself as the expert, or is it better to just have your product as your business as your focal point? Do you want to address that?
I don't think there's a rule. It depends.
Yeah.
That's always my answer. It depends.
I guess it all depends on your business strategy, right? On your business strategy or your marketing strategy, if you want to be seen as an expert in your field.
Yeah, it depends on your goals. So for me personally, because I am out speaking, I'm out doing things, I'm selling me most of the time, then I sell me. Like that's the personal branding part is important. I think everybody needs to, well, not everybody, it's a choice, but it's really great to have a strong LinkedIn profile. It's important to be findable as an individual so people know what you do. But in terms of your business, it really depends on what you sell, what you do, what you want to have happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
My take on it is that companies are made of people. And so I think what the opportunity that social media and the online world in general provides is for you to be a people first organization. So it doesn't matter if if you're just a small little company or you're a medium sized company, the people are what make it interesting. And you've seen that there's lots of examples of even large companies like Dell Computers, for example, that had Richard at Dell on Twitter, who was giving out advice on Dell computers and became a real presence, and became, there's Scott Monty from Ford that was able to create a real personality for the company and have that interaction with people directly. And so, I think that you have to strike that balance between, am I going to, as an individual, be the presence for my company, or am I going to create representatives within my company that can be that voice?
Because I agree with you. I think it's a very valid point that people at the end of the day want to feel like they are still dealing with another individual, whether it's on social media or on the phone or whatever. And so I think the point to, not being afraid to use yourself as an expert or to put a face to your business and not just simply leave it in the hands of your Facebook page to do all the talking for your business, to have a little bit of courage to say, this is the human face of my business, because these platforms like Facebook is a fantastic platform to be able to do that, to put the human element on your business.
It doesn't always take a lot. So we go to Kids in the Capital, which is a blog that I own as an example.
Yes.
I have 3 different people. So myself and 2 other people are posting content to the Facebook page. And it's not that our picture is attached to everything, but we all put our name at the end, and all it takes is a name to somehow make it a little bit more than just a random thing that's said. So is it Lara who said it? Is it Tracy who said it? Is it So that just adds, it doesn't take a lot to have that little personalized touch.
Yeah, and not to forget to include that in all of your postings, right? To add that human element to what is your your product or your service. Is there such a thing as posting too much? Can you post too much, whether it's on...
It depends. Here we go again, right?
Okay.
It depends on the platform.
Okay, let's talk about Facebook.
Okay, on
Okay, is it too
Facebook,
much? Is there
yeah,
too
on
much?
Facebook, I think it's possible to post too much. I think we all have those friends on Facebook that we'd like to sort of unfollow them for a little while, especially during election campaigns and things like that. But from a business perspective,
Yes.
I think that there's always sort of general best practices, and again, it's not a hard and fast rule like you must do this. But I think that posting a couple of times a day to your Facebook page, is a good rule of thumb for a couple of reasons. One, it doesn't overwhelm people, and 2, it's a time thing. It's a time issue. I'm running a business. I only have a certain amount of time in my day. If I'm spending all of my time trying to create content for all of my social networks, I'm going to run out of time eventually.
Of course.
So, so you have to strike that balance between what works for you as a business owner, as far as, can I put out this much content on a regular basis? And some people put out a lot more content. Like Lara puts out a ton of content every single day to all of her different online presence, just Facebook groups and Facebook pages and things like that, and I think it's wonderful because it's obviously working for it works for your business, right? But it's because it's what works for your business.
Okay.
So the short answer is it really does depend on again what you're trying to accomplish.
Yes.
Yeah.
Facebook groups. Can you tell me? You wanted to add to that first?
I just want to quickly add to that, because I think part of the what's too much, right? So for us, we're like, you should 2 times a day is a great amount, whereas some people, they're like, well, I don't want to post every day. That's going to overwhelm people. And I think that's first of all, it's very rare for everybody to see everything that you say.
How do you get people to see what you say? Because I didn't know this until recently, that I just thought if we were friends and if I was following them, that they would automatically see my content, and I realized that that's not the case. That's right.
There's just too much content for that, right? If you think about how much content there's online, there just isn't the capacity for you to see everything that everybody says.
Okay.
So Facebook tries through a variety of ways to figure out what you want to see.
Okay. And these are the famous algorithms
The
that
famous
you're talking
algorithms.
that you're talking about, that you have no control over, essentially. So it tries to predict. Is that what it is? Based on how does it predict what to make appear in your feed?
I wish I knew.
Yeah.
we all
Yeah,
wish
we all
we
wish
knew
we did.
because then we could figure it out. But that's the thing, is a proprietary algorithm, so they don't
Right.
tell us exactly how it works,
Okay.
but they'll give us little hints, like fresh, timely, relevant content. You know so making sure that if you're talking about a current issue that's in the news, for example, that might have more of an effect on whether more people are seeing the content. How many people are liking or commenting or sharing your post also has an effect on how high it comes up in your ranking on Facebook. So there's a number of things, but I always say to people, it doesn't matter what platform you're using, fresh, timely, relevant content that speaks to your audience, is always going to win the day. Of course, the other thing you can do on Facebook is pay for it.
Right, and I wanted to ask you about that actually. You can pay for advertising on Facebook. So does that work? Is it worth spending the money to actually to advertise? Yes, you're both nodding your
Yes,
heads.
I think absolutely.
Okay.
It's one of the most effective ways that my clients have been able to build their presence on Facebook is by spending a little bit of money. You don't have to spend. You don't have to have a huge advertising budget to make inroads on Facebook. I've had clients in the past that we're trying to build the audience, so we're getting the page out to. The best thing for me, I think, about advertising on Facebook is the ability to target your audience. So that means if I'm promoting a comedy festival, for example, I can go out there and I can target people who love stand-up comedy in Ottawa, people who are in a geographic region. Yeah, absolutely. And so that means that anytime, or well, not anytime, but if somebody's talking on their Facebook profile about, oh, I went to see a great stand-up show last night at Yuck Yucks or whatever, then my ads have more of a chance of coming up in their stream, and then they can click, they can like my page, and they become part of my community. And it works really, really well, and you don't have to spend a ton of money to do it.
That's good to know. So Facebook advertising is one possibility, one way that you can grow your business. Groups? You mentioned Facebook groups?
Yeah, Facebook groups are really, I think they're a really great tool for building community.
Okay.
So I have a Facebook group called the Biz Studio where I have entrepreneurs who come together and they're just there to support each other. Okay. So they're answering each other's questions, helping support each other. I'm there as an expert when it comes to digital marketing. Okay. So there are all kinds of groups. There are community groups. There are groups, buy and sell groups. There are endless opportunities, but it is a really great way to bring people together to talk about a common topic.
Okay.
The one thing is you can only be in a group as an individual. So you can't come in as a business name.
Right.
So you need to be prepared to be visible as a person.
So you have to make that profile of yours visible. You can't hide behind just
you can just be in the group. That's fine, right? People can click on your name and then not be able to see anything. That is possible. All
right. We have about 2 minutes before we have to go to break. How do you measure your success on Facebook? Is there a way to measure success?
Absolutely, there's a way to measure success. First of all, I think a great way to measure success on any social media platform when you're a business is by looking at your bank account. Good point. So that's a measure of success. But Facebook has a great tool called Facebook Insights that are attached to Facebook pages, to the page itself. And if you're administrator of a page, you get access to all of these different statistics and metrics that will tell you how many people have liked your page over the past little while, how many people liked and shared and commented on your posts, so you can see which posts do better than other posts, that sort of thing. The time of day that people are coming to your page and looking for your content and that sort of thing. So there's lots and lots of ways to do that.
Okay. Do you have a favorite tip that most people don't know about in Facebook? We have about a minute before we go to break. Do you have a favorite thing that most people don't know about Facebook that you'd like to share with them? A favorite tip?
A favorite tip?
Yeah.
Boy.
Some people.
I don't know if it's a favorite tip, but I'll say one thing that I think is really important is to put a call to action in things, right? So when you're saying something, don't just say it. Ask them to do something, whether it be tell you something, like something, ask a question, right? The more you can make it easy for people to engage with you, the more likely they are. You need to give them an idea to do it though.
Yeah, and respond to people. So if somebody is commenting on your posts, be there to respond and reply and have that conversation. Don't make the conversation just one-sided.
Okay, that's excellent. All right, we have to go to break. Please stay tuned as we come back from break to continue our conversation on social media and to grow your business.